Good morning and welcome to Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquin, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and it is Monday. Never that happy of a day, but happy Monday anyway. Patriot Radio News Hour, 800-951-0592. That is the number you need to call to get yourself some wealth insurances. Let's face it, it's just a world. Everyone has lost their minds. Wendy's had a tough morning. We had Frank the phone guy out here. The ghost is in the machine. We did a bunch of different stuff. At least for right now, we are static free. Hopefully that will continue. If not, we'll keep working on it. As most of you know, I'm getting ready to head. Arlene's already on vacation. I'm getting ready to go on vacation. I'll be here tomorrow. And then after that, I'm out of town, heading the family. We're heading to West Virginia. Yeah, I know, right? Who goes on vacation to West Virginia? Nobody does. But if you have family, then you go out there. So my brother, his kids, they live out there. My mom's coming down, and I mean, there's a couple of things to do in West Virginia. So we're going to do those things. We're going to go whitewater rafting. I guess there's a place called the Gorge. We're going to go do that. My brother and I are going to play a little golf. So, I will be gone from Wednesday through Tuesday. So I'll be back the following Wednesday. So if you need me, just call. Wendy's here. Wendy's she's going to suck it up. She's going to work a whole week. Yep, 5 straight days in a row she's going to put in. And so, you know what? That's rare. I mean, that hasn't happened in like a decade. You can always talk to her. She's kind of the boss anyway. So
this is true.
Closer. There you go.
I had a crazy morning, but I am probably going to forward the phone and have it with me. My family's coming into town, but
your family practically lives here. That doesn't really count.
I'll have my invoice pad with me, and Joe, hopefully or somebody will update the website.
Yeah, I'll keep my eye on it. Don't worry.
Right. And I'll make up specials. It'll be
fun. And Ramon and Glenn. By the way, Glenn, are you here? Glenn, are you on?
I am, Joe.
Okay.
Good morning.
Hi, Glenn.
Hi, Wendy. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm very hot.
So Glenn is going to be filling in. The professor, Glenn Biddle, is going to be filling in while I'm gone and taking over for me during the summer here. Glenn, first of all, I appreciate it. Now, people in Colorado, they've heard you before. Phoenix, this is probably their first time around, but just give us a quick overview. What's your background, Glenn?
Well, I found your show by accident. We talked about that once before. I was asking a friend I want a good conservative economics podcast, and he's telling me about the Sirius XM Patriot channel, and I got it all mixed up and ended up going on the App Store and found the Patriot Trading Group, News Hour, and the rest is history. I found kindred spirits in both you and Eric. We're all tinfoil hat wearers. We're all the crazy uncle in the room at Thanksgiving. You and I share the sports kids.
Right. Your kids are big lacrosse players. Of course, my kids are football players, but I call lacrosse. Lacrosse really is football, but they give you sticks.
Absolutely, it's the same sport of basketball, but with sticks, and you get to hit people if you're within 5 yards of the ball. It's a great game. The fastest game on 2 feet, they call it. So now I live in Maryland. We call it the Democratic Social Republic with a K of Maryland.
By the way, I'm sorry about that.
I know. Nothing I can do. We're the home of the swamp, unfortunately, and we have extreme gun control. And you can. But people don't leave the state; they stay here for some reason. I guess it's to suck up all those great federal jobs over at the swamp.
Well, yeah, you've got the great. Washington D.C.'s right there. So you've got all kinds of money floating around up there that people just are dying to spend.
Yeah, the Land Rover dealerships are doing a great business every time the budget's passed.
You got all the lobbyists and all that. Come on, yeah. You guys got it going on there.
That's right. So I'm a history teacher. I spent 24 years in the military, retired a few years back. I'm a history and political science major. So I decided I'd put them to use. I've got a great schedule. Summer's off. You can't beat it. And I've taught everything from 6th grade up to 12th grade, history, geography, AP government, you name it. I'm doing it. So I love it.
So Glenn is kind of we use him a lot, during his schedule, during the summer. He's what I call the vacation filler. And he's got, I guess you got a big plan going on. So Ramon was telling me you've got certain music you want. You've got certain things for the website. So, I mean, you guys are in for it. You're going to get both barrels.
Absolutely. School is not out in summer. I'm going to give the listeners homework, and I'm going to collect it the next day when we come back on the air. So,
man, I don't know what we've gotten ourselves into. I haven't done homework. Even when I was in school, I didn't do homework. So, nonetheless, Glenn, thank you so much. Glenn's going to be on here with me today, and I think are you doing the Colorado show too today?
I am. I'm doing the first half of the Colorado show, and an exciting thing is the streaming's back up. I just checked, and it's live and it's good to go. You go to shoutcast.com and you search for American Freedom Network, and you can listen to the show today.
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. So we do have that working. We're in the process. We're going to get the button on our website at All American Gold. Right now, KHNC's button, we got to fix that as well. But if you go to Shoutcast and you just look for the American Freedom Network, you'll find it. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe Jaquin, along with the professor, Glenn Biddle. He's got. Let me tell you, I'm excited. I don't know anything, and on purpose, Glenn hasn't told me anything other than, hey, I've been sending Ramon a bunch of stuff, and they're going to have a great time, and I hope you all enjoy Glenn. And I'll tell you this: I've known Glenn for quite a while, ever since he found us by accident, and he's fantastic. He's got his finger on the pulse of it. His background though is great. And again, I don't want to tell Glenn what to do, but if he gets into the history of things, he's going to blow you away. All the things you thought you knew or you thought what history was. And again, this is what they love to do. I say this all the time. With the mainstream media, they always want to rewrite or put their spin on what history is and omit all these things. Like right now, and obviously I talk a lot about finance, but you hear these guys come out on TV. We're getting ready for second quarter earnings, and they're going to be great. I heard one guy saying, hey, listen, we're at 20, 22, 23% earnings growth. Nobody in the world's at that. China's not there. Europe's not there. We're in our own little sweet spot. Never once saying, listen, we're on a sweet spot because we just took their tax bill and whacked it in half. The problem, but again, but who cares about why, right? No one wants to know why. What's going to be key is what they say about what's going to happen at the end of 2018 and heading into 2019. And I think what we're going to end up hearing is a lot of these companies, because, and I'll just say this, Wall Street's priced to perfection. We're not going to get it. The dollar has gotten way too strong. It's really going to impact earnings. And then, of course, you got all the trade war stuff going on with China. We got an update on that. But, Glenn, let me ask you this. Are you going to talk about some history things going on in the U.S.? Well, you know what? This is why we practice. It's live radio. I think we lost Glenn. I think we lost the connection. We'll get him back. But trust me when I tell you, I think you're going to love it. Big news out of China today. So we got the Dow's up about 270 points right now. That's right, because I don't know why, but it doesn't really matter. There are some technical things. It went above its 50-day moving average, so all the computers said you got to buy it. Gold's up $1,262. Silver's up 10 cents, $16.10. So both gold and silver recovering from the, I'll call it the sell-off. We had the mystery seller 3-4 Fridays ago that sold it off and whatnot, and we've kind of, I think now we can officially, I think looks like the bottom is in now officially. I thought the bottom was in at 1280. Apparently 1238 was the number. Right now, like I said, gold is rallying back now since that time. The big news came out of China where they have said that they are not going to comply with the United States, the State Department's request to stop importing Iranian oil. So, of course, obviously, China, the most important people in this, because they import the most. Matter of fact, China and India, and it looks like China and India are getting together. We talked about that the other day, where they're talking now about forming a different type of oil cartel. Usually the oil producers form together. In this case, China and India are saying, hey, let's form a co-op, if you will, oil buying co-op. And again, that just makes sense. Hey, if you combine what we're buying and India's buying, you got two of the largest oil buyers in the world. We want to get the best price. And between India and China, you get most of the Iranian oil just from those two countries. And then you got, I think Turkey does some, and believe it or not, Iraq. I think those are the four large buyers, and I don't think Iraq and Turkey are going to stop anytime soon either. So really taking the sting, if you will, out of that. Crude oil, though, really didn't move on that news. I thought maybe it would sell off. It didn't. Lots of concerns, and it's hard to know because we don't live in the Middle East. I don't know what's going on in Libya. I don't know what's going on in Nigeria. I mean, we know what's going on, like Venezuela. They're not producing anything. Mexico's having their issues. And it's hard to know, but it just looks like a, economics 101, supply and demand issues in crude oil. And so any hiccup in that, and I think we could, I don't like to say it, but don't be shocked if we get 80, 85, even possibly, $100 a barrel oil, not out of the question. It requires something to happen. Okay, so the Iran sanctions would actually have to be implemented, or some other form of disruption in one of these countries that we're not expecting. Glenn, are you back?
I am back.
Okay, we lost you there. This is why I told everyone, so this is why we had to come. We wanted to practice today.
So I am back. I do plan on doing a lot of history. Just like I would teach my class, I'm going to put the people right through what I would teach in class. One of the fun things we're going to do is the Fed chairman game. That's some of their homework they're going to have to do.
The Fed chairman game. All right.
That's right.
Can't wait. You know what? I don't want to know. I can't wait for it. And it's going to be great. Again, I think it's going to be one of those things where a lot of people, you're going to learn a ton of stuff. And really for us, that's what separates us from everybody else, right? Because anybody can sell you anything now, especially with the internet, and throw a cheap price on it. But it's where you get the information that separates us from everybody else. And I know that not only will Glenn be educating you with the radio, but he's also you're helping Ramon put the webpage together day in and day out. Is that right?
Yes, I send articles in, and hopefully they're helpful to you, and they can go on the website. That's awesome.
Glenn has been, by the way, and I don't want to, and I don't like to give credit to everybody else because I want people to think that I'm Superman over here. But Glenn, he sends me articles every day. These are articles. A lot of these articles will not be articles that are up on our website. You do the same thing for Jason and Brian in Colorado.
That's correct. And I tailor what I send to you and to them according to your interests and their interests, and we have a lot of fun with that.
So there you go. And again, I think it's going to be a great treat. Glenn will be running the show Monday through Tuesday. So Wednesday through Tuesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Glenn's going to be in charge, and then I'll be back again on the following Wednesday. I'll be back in town and pick up from there. Glenn, we were talking about the Dow's up today, and they had a little technical thing, and the computers all rejoicing and acting like all of the strong dollar and the trade stuff's not going to have an impact. And then we saw China, they matched us on the tariffs. Now we find out that they've officially told, I don't know who, they were actually, believe it or not, so it was Angela Merkel and the Chinese president. They were in a big trade meeting over the weekend where they made the announcement that they're not going to comply with the U.S. request. And then they went as far as to issue a joint statement, the Chinese and the Germans, upset, obviously, about the trade action. And, of course, the reason why they're upset, think about this. Why are they upset? Because they know they've been giving it to us for how many years, and you know what? They don't want to give it back, Glenn.
Well, we always said we would want it back eventually, and it's almost too late when you see all the industry that's moved out of our country. That stuff's not coming back. I mean, there's no way with the cost of labor in this country, it's going to be impossible to bring those jobs back here when you're competing with a Foxconn that's paying its workers 30 cents an hour to build iPhones. It's just not going to work back in the U.S., paying a U.S. worker $15 an hour or more.
Yes, somebody, what's so funny is, and I saw it, and I apologize for not having any more than I just saw. Somebody did a study on the iPhone, okay? Because when we think about what do we import from China, that's one of the things at the top of the list, and I guess they're $1,000 a crack now, so it's definitely a big number. But they were saying that all said and done, China makes about $8, and I forget the exact. I want $8.48 or something like that. That's all they make on the iPhone. And I'm assuming, and I didn't get too far into it, that was the Chinese government, and then there's and that was one of the reasons why. And of course, the article had to do with why the trade war with China won't work. Because they don't make this much money or that much money, and again, their numbers, you can make it appear like anything you want, but this is, I have a hard time believing that's all that they make. Number one, but number two, to Glenn's point, the difference in pay, and I'll do something easier, okay? Mexico and the United States. We know that we're trying to renegotiate NAFTA and all of those things, and you've heard everything from Chrysler to Ford to General Motors all saying that they're continuing with their plans to continue to move more and more production to Mexico. And basically the big three, they're not really planning on building any car in the United States after like 2020. I think maybe the Corvette, right? Maybe the only car that they build in the U.S. They're just sending all that production to Mexico because the difference is in Mexico they make $2.50 an hour max. You're talking about working for Chrysler or GM or Ford. I mean, you're making, and you got to include everything, not just your hourly pay. Right, you got unemployment, you got unemployment taxes, you got all the payroll taxes, and that's 6.2% in payroll tax for the business. You got all the benefits, the health, and all that other stuff, and all said and done, they're all in cost, even if they're only paying say $15 to $18 an hour. The real cost is probably somewhere closer to $24 or $25, and in Mexico it's $2.50. It doesn't matter how big. So what if it's a 25% tariff? Still not even close. You know what I'm saying, Glenn?
I know exactly what you're saying. We had a Black & Decker plant here in my town, and it moved to Mexico. And the average salary here was we're hourly wage, was about $18 an hour with benefits. It went to Mexico, $2 an hour. My brother-in-law worked for Black & Decker. He was one of the top executives. And then those jobs eventually were outsourced from Mexico to China, where they're only paying 30 to 40 cents an hour to build grass trimmers. And that's our economy. And I told him, I said, Greg, you're eventually going to lose your job, too, because of all this. He goes, oh, that'll never happen. And whenever you say that'll never happen, what happens?
It happens.
It happens.
And
that's what
I
happened
guess
to him.
really, for all of this, it'll be interesting to see how all of this plays out. I will say this, anything we get, worst case scenario, we go through this and we get nothing, right? And nobody makes any concessions, and we've got these tariffs in place, and we don't make anything. I think I want to believe that that's the least likely outcome. I would like to believe that somebody's going to give us something so we can claim victory. When anything we get, will be better than nothing. But to think that all these jobs are coming back, that's not what's going to happen. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be right back after the break.
This is the Phyllis Schlafly Report from Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. Mrs. Schlafly was a courageous and articulate voice for traditional values and common sense for more than 70 years. Now, continuing that legacy, the president of Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, Ed Martin.
The tragic Santa Fe school shooting in May led to another round of liberal demands for gun control. But missing from their narrative was how this shooting by a former football player occurred at the very same high school where the Supreme Court censored prayer at football games in a ruling back in 2000. The ACLU insisted then that student-led prayer be banned at this school, and the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 in favor of the ACLU and against the school in Santa Fe Independent School District v. Doe. Liberals are notably quiet in commenting on how prayer was eliminated at this same school by the judicial activism of the U.S. Supreme Court. The gun control typically proposed by liberals would not have stopped this crime, because the crime was committed by a man using a shotgun, not a semi-automatic weapon, as well as a revolver. The student killer in this tragic case should have attracted immediate scrutiny for how he would wear a black trench coat on hot Texan days, and how his postings on Facebook included a Born to Kill t-shirt and images of Satan and atheistic communism. Likewise, the former student who shot up Marjorie Stoneham Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, was widely known to be a risk for violence, and multiple complaints about him to law enforcement fell on deaf ears before he murdered 17. Had either student been profiled based on their public behavior, then both tragedies might have been averted, or at least curtailed. A reasonable dress code would have prevented hiding a shotgun in a black trench coat on a hot day, or at least allowed immediate preventive action to be taken. But missing from the script in either of these cases is any real criticism of Facebook for how it has been a common denominator for many of these school shootings. The killers use Facebook to publicize their wanton desires in seeking their 15 minutes of fame, to paraphrase Andy Warhol. Liberals can propose fixes for supposed gun problems over and over, but if they aren't willing to acknowledge that gutting Judeo-Christian values from the public square is hurting our kids, they'll never find a solution to stop this senseless violence.
This has been the Phyllis Schlafly Report from Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. When America turns our back on our Christian heritage, we shouldn't be surprised when biblical precepts like honesty, kindness, respect, justice, and freedom are abandoned. At phyllisschlafly.com, we still believe in rights endowed by our Creator. If you agree, find out more at phyllisschlafly.com. Thanks for listening to the Phyllis Schlafly Report.
800-951-0592. That is our toll-free number. Of course, the website at allamericangold.com. I'm trying to get to, and I apologize, Wendy and I were talking through the break here. Yeah, so we've got, here's the special today. So we've got 125 $10 Liberty gold pieces. Those are the half ounce, the $10 1866 to 1907. They're going to be $675. So you're going to save $10 a piece. If you buy 10 or more, $670 at 951-0592. Take advantage of that. Right now, it's really important when you're putting together your wealth insurance. You always want to take advantage of these, what I call market anomalies. It makes no sense sort of sell-offs. And usually what happens, anytime we've got some big news that really doesn't make financial sense, and yet somehow they're pretending that it's going to be just fine and everything's wonderful. This is what they like to do, right? They'll get the plunge protection team, they'll get the Treasury Department and the futures pit guys, and they'll go in there and they'll sell off gold, they'll sell off silver. It doesn't last very long, but they don't want you, right? Because if gold had run, which it should have, right? People would have been scared. People would have been nervous, right? They don't want you to be scared or nervous because they don't want you to know that it's happening and it's really all of their fault. And all of this stuff, you can trace it right to the Federal Reserve, all of it. Great article out today talking about rents hit an all-time record high. We've never paid more for rent ever in the history of the country, and yet the Federal Reserve will tell you there's no inflation, nobody's paying anything more. The average rent now over $1,400 a month. And listen, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not living in luxury at $1,400 a month. In some places you could. In Phoenix here, you're going to live in $1,400 will get you a decent place, no doubt about it. But you're not going to be living in Kierland, right? You're not going to be living up in North Scottsdale. You're not going to be living in one of these brand new places. On the west side, the east side. Yeah, you can do it. It'll be okay. But the point being is they don't want you to understand why. Instead, what they want you to do, right, Glenn, is they want you to go on strike. They want you to go to your boss and tell them you want more money, when in actuality, the reason for all of this stuff is the central bank itself. You want to know why pensions went away? It's the Fed's fault, right? Because all of these companies said, hey, listen, we can't afford that. Can't afford to pay these people $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month for the rest of their lives. Of course, why do they got to pay that much? Because, right, the Federal Reserve, they've created all of this money, and they want to act like they haven't. And they talk about policies being accommodative and not accommodative, and we got a yield curve getting ready to invert. And I don't know, Glenn, did you see they're talking, over their last meeting, that they've now decided amongst themselves that the yield curve inverting may not be a big deal.
Well, it is a big deal, and it's a big deal to everybody that actually knows what's going on. They're just trying to wish problems away. And like you said before, people shouldn't be going down to their local governor or mayor and striking. They should be going to the Federal Reserve and protesting, because they're the main problem with all this. When they bake into the cake 2% inflation every year, after 10 years, that's 20%. And that's public school math, but it works. That's 20% inflation in 10 years. And that's why having gold and silver is such a great investment, because you're going to be guaranteed a 20% return, because you're just keeping up with inflation. You're probably going to do better than inflation in the long term when you have a precious metals as opposed to any other type of asset. Maybe real estate might help you. But that's all dependent, again, on the Fed if they blow the bubble up and then pop it.
Yeah, and that's such a great point. And you're right? You're talking about real things, right? And you need to have real things. But even with that, there's manipulation, and they can do things like today as an example. Tough time to be a farmer right now, right? With all the things and the trade wars going on, and one of the things, the easy target, the exports. How do you plan for that stuff? And you can't. And then you think, and like Glenn said, 2% is a number they made up. Well, if it only devalues by 2% a year, somehow that's going to be great for the United States. And remember, I've been telling you for a long time, that was just the introductory number, right? Because they had to start somewhere. This This is actually a new policy within about the last decade, and it was actually under Ben Bernanke where they finally adopted this 2% number. That they talked about it, but it wasn't an official policy of the Federal Reserve until Bernanke, and they call it inflation targeting. Is what they like to call it. And really, I wish they would get around to calling it what it is, which is devaluation of the currency. But they don't call it that because then a few more people may actually realize, wait a minute, that's not a good thing for me. I mean, if you don't have a lot of money, I guess maybe it doesn't matter. But if you're actually somebody, hey, I pay my bills and I put money aside every month, month after month, year after year, it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. And the problem with the number was as soon as that number doesn't work, they'll just say that's what they meant to do. And what's happened now? What has actually happened now? They had to come out and admit, yes, inflation is over our estimated target. And, of course, the latest number, which they don't actually want to talk about and want to recognize, was 2.9%. So it's almost 50% higher than the target, and their answer was, you know what, but that's okay. And we're not going to overreact, just like we didn't overreact when the inflation rate was below 2%. And I'm like, you didn't overreact. You had QE1, QE2, QE3, twist again. You bought $4 trillion worth of bonds. I would call that an overreaction, wouldn't you, Glenn?
Absolutely. And if you look at the real numbers, if you looked at real inflation, the consumer price index has been manipulated to take out transportation and food, I believe, which are your two probably most expensive items, along with healthcare. But if the true inflation was actually registered, it would probably be somewhere 6, 7, 8%. And if you looked at real unemployment, we're probably in the 10 or 15% range when you count all the people that are out of the market.
We're up on the break. Patriot Radio News Hour. Stay with us. 800-951-0592. Still don't believe us? Right, 2% a year, 10 years later, that's 20%. The real number, I don't even know. It's hard to quantify. I know John Williams from Shadow Stats does the best. When did the Federal Reserve start changing these economic numbers? Because, they were around since 1913. And they had an unemployment index. They had an inflation index. And they had it for decades. Then something changed. And, of course, the biggest change was that we went off the gold standard in 1971. And the Federal Reserve quickly realized, oh, wait a minute. If we use real numbers, look what happens, right? What happened in the 70s, right? The 70s, we had hyperinflation. Because, yes, everything was going up, but your wages were going with it, right? So it wasn't dollar for dollar, but at least you were like, okay, I'm making more money. Things are costing more, but at least I'm making more, and it didn't feel, as bad. And then remember we had the oil shock, and we had this, there's always a reason, right? So if you actually go back and look what really happened, how did they get the genie in the bottle, if you will? And the answer was simple. They just started to lie. And, I'm going to use the word flat out lie. And they come out and they tell you about all of their economic theory, right? And they write down these equations that don't even have numbers in them. They got symbols and who knows what in there. And they would explain it away, right? And they'd come out and they'd get the media to go along with them, right, and explaining all of this stuff away. And they just changed how they calculated everything. All through the 80s and the 90s, they changed all of the data. So like when Glenn says, hey, the real unemployment rate, if you go back to how they used to calculate it, at best case, it's double what they're saying. Inflation, right? Best case, triple what they're saying. So if they're telling you 2, it's really 6. I'll give you, in the article today about record high rents, right? And I always make fun of the Federal Reserve because they don't even use rent. First, they used to use housing, actual houses. But what happened was, because they created this bubble, all of a sudden, home prices got too expensive. They didn't want to use that anymore because it made them look bad. So they went and said, well, you know what? Rents are cheaper. Let's use rent. Then rent started getting more expensive. So they said, you know what? Why don't we just use rent equivalent? Right? And they just do it. And nobody, questions them. And, they've got all this autonomy to do whatever they want. I don't even know what rent equivalent means. But I'm going to give you something real simple that everybody can understand. Okay? The largest 250 cities. Okay? In other words, where everybody lives. Okay? 88% saw rent increases. 88%. 10 were unchanged, and only in 2% of the cities did rent fall, and you can almost pick them out, right? It'll be Flint, Michigan, or Syracuse, New York, right? Somewhere where everyone's leaving by the thousands. The 20 biggest increases, and it's not going to be a surprise to anybody, because this is where everybody's moving, right? They're going to be in Texas, right? Like Midland, Texas. By the way, Midland, Odessa. And for those of you that don't know, Midland, Odessa is a huge oil basket. My brother that I'm going to go see on vacation, he actually oversees his company's station there. And he tells me this story, and I don't think I've shared it, where when he flies in, you can't fly direct to Midland, Odessa, right? So you fly into Dallas or Houston, and you get on one of these planes that seats, 60 or 70 people. And he goes, there'll be 70 people on the plane, 69 of them are going to be men and 1 woman. He goes, that's usually who's on my plane. And he goes, because they're all going to the oil field. He goes, for me to stay at the Holiday Inn Monday through Friday, it's over $600 a night. And then on the weekend, it goes to $79, right? Because everyone leaves to go back to wherever they're from because they're there for the oil markets. Rents are up 39 and 37%. Now, those are a little smaller places. Then you go into, like, the suburbs of L.A., you go into Nevada. You go into Arizona, Peoria, Arizona. Rents are up over 10%, right? And these are all the places where people are moving to. Orlando, Florida's on the list. Of course, Denver's on the list. Mesa is on the list. So you start really looking at all of these places, and these are what's real. This is what the real rents are. What rents do you think the Federal Reserve is going to use? You think they're going to use Peoria, where rents are up double digits? No. You think they're going to use Midland or Odessa? Heck no, right? They're going to go find the places where it's down, right? Here's the places it was down. Broomfield, which I don't even know where Broomfield is, maybe Texas. Norman, Oklahoma. Baton Rouge, Louisiana, those were the places where it fell. So, again, I thought it was Flint and Syracuse. Tells you what I know. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. I just saw that. Wow, I can't believe it. Nordstrom's, I saw the headline. Nordstrom's going to open up more stores. And I'm like, oh, what? I was told they're closing stores. And then I opened it up. They are preparing to open 2 more stores. But these stores have no inventory. Yep, that's. I don't know how you open a store with no inventory, but they're going to do it. Well, you know what? It's in Hollywood, so that probably makes sense. Only there can you open a store with no inventory, but it's going to have a nail salon. So Nordstrom's is going to go from 50 to 100,000 square foot store selling you everything from cosmetics to apparel to furniture and you name it, to now being a nail salon. Yep, 3,000 square foot. That's a big nail salon at best. They're also going to have beer and wine in it. So, Glenn, you guys, if you go out to Hollywood, maybe you can go visit one of these places. Get your nails done and have a beverage.
I can't wait to get my nails done. I'll get a mani-pedi.
Call it Nordstrom's, yeah.
Right. Now, I want you to rest assured while you're gone on your vacation that I will not wreck the car or throw any wild parties or trash your house.
That's
Mom and Dad can have fun and know that everything's going to be fine. I'm sure that Ramon and Wendy will keep you straight.
In good hands, and I know you're going to do great. And here's the best part: even if it's not so great, I do a lot of bad shows, so anything is probably an improvement. Shout out to Bob. Bob called in and paid some compliments. To talking about how great we are, but Wendy always keeps me humble because she's like, well, I told him he sucked, so there you go. So, but anyway, Glenn, I appreciate it. The professor's going to take good care of you while I'm gone. Before I listen, gold and silver are on their way, heading back up. Make sure take the time. Even it doesn't matter if you're buying 1, 10, 20. Take the time, put it away, pay the cheaper price. U.S. $10 Liberty gold pieces 1 through 9 at $675. Buy 10 or more at $670 at 800-951-0592. I don't know. Maybe this is how retail is going to be. The stores with no inventory. What they want you to do is order the product online and then drive to this no inventory place and try the clothes on there. I'm not kidding you. They got all these fitting rooms in there, and you're supposed to try on the online clothes there. And I guess get your nails done and have a cocktail. And maybe, I guess, when they don't fit or you don't like how it looks, I guess you just do the return at the empty store. I don't know. It's the craziest business model I've ever seen, but who knows, right? Crazier things have worked. Go to Nordstrom's and bring your clothes with you. And while you're there trying on your clothes, I guess you could have a cocktail and get your nails done as well. That's going to be the new economy. No word on if anyone actually works in the store. Maybe they'll have a robot there standing there. Oh, that looks great. Patriot Radio News Hour. One more show for me before I head off to vacation, and then the professor will take over. Glenn, thank you so much for taking the time this morning, and I'm sure everyone's going to love you next week. Patriot Radio News Hour. Take care. God bless everybody. Final show for me, and then I'm out of here tomorrow.